collision in the East End knocks out power for a large number of Synergy North customers this morning. Good evening and thank you for joining us. A small car took out a utility pole around 9:30.
It forced repair crews to scramble to restore power to the neighborhood. The crash happened at the corner of Atlantic Avenue and Island Drive. Synergy North reported that 1,746 hydro customers along Simpson Street and in the East End were left without power. Thunder Bay police say it was a male driver and there were no serious injuries, but there's no word yet on what caused the crash or whether any charges were laid. Power was restored to all but a handful of Synergy North customers by about 10:40 this morning.
A 35-year-old has been charged with careless driving after allegedly running into an unmarked police vehicle. The collision happened just after 11:30 last night, while the police vehicle was stopped at a red light at the Oliver Road and High Street intersection. Both the officer and the accused were treated for minor injuries, and both vehicles were damaged.
Thunder Bay police are highlighting a recent incident that could have ended in tragedy. On Saturday night, the Festive Ride program spotted two young drivers who were found to have alcohol in their systems, driving 100 kilometers an hour down Memorial Avenue. Acting Traffic Sergeant Tom Armstrong explains what happened.
Road conditions are probably less than ideal. Very extreme speeds, which on their own would be downright dangerous. But to make it worse, these drivers were obviously racing each other, which is another aggravating factor. To compound this problem even more, both of these drivers were novice drivers. So both these drivers are supposed to be driving with the utmost care and attention, which they were clearly not doing. On top of that, both these drivers, as novice drivers, have to have a blood alcohol concentration of 0. Neither of these drivers did.
A new report from Ontario's Education Ministry is outlining issues with the number of early childhood educators. The report finds that the percentage of ECEs has been declining in recent years. CTV's Siobhan Morse is following the story.
It's a persistent problem going back years. Not enough people to take care of our little ones. There are childcare centres across Ontario
with rooms closed, not because of lack of demand, but because there aren't enough people to staff them.
The target for the number of registered early childhood educators has been slipping. The goal when Ontario joined the $10 a day childcare program was for 60% of daycare staff to be RECEs. Ontario was at 59%. 2 years later, that number has dropped to 56%.
The number one thing they're telling us is that the wages are still too low.
The Association of Early Childhood Educators of Ontario and the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare have been pushing for compensation beyond a boost announced late last year.
Advocating for a wage scale that starts at $30 to $40 an hour, which is much higher than our current wage floor of $23.86.
Operators say attracting and hanging on to RECEs is limiting their ability to serve kids and their parents.
If you don't have enough staff, you may have to shorten your hours of operation to make up that shortfall. So there are access issues, there are quality issues.
Hannon says the sector has also been hurt by scaled back immigration and student visas.
A lot of ECE programs have the majority, in colleges, have the majority of their students as international students.
Ontario's education minister continues to call on Ottawa to allow more for-profit daycares into the $10 a day program, something the feds have repeatedly said they won't do.
I don't think that would help the staffing issue at all, and I don't think that that's the answer to expansion challenges.
Powell says other provinces have shown improvement is possible.
Comprehensive wage grids, of health benefit plans, of access to pensions. So we know these things are possible, and Ontario educators deserve them as well.
CTV's Siobhan Morris reporting. A Thunder Bay man who built his own boat and sailed it across the Atlantic Ocean will soon head out on more epic adventures.
This Saturday, Dan Turk will start competing in a qualifying event for the Mini Globe Race, a 13-month voyage around the world that starts in February. Jess Clement has the story.
There's so many places to go and see and explore and learn the cultures of all these different countries.
Thunder Bay local Dan Turk is no stranger to crossing the Atlantic Ocean, doing so in about 6 weeks back in August 2023. He will now make a similar journey later this week as part of a qualifying event for an even bigger race he plans to participate in early next year.
The qualifier is from the Canary Islands to Antigua, and you have to, the way the rules were that you had to do the Transat race to qualify for the Mini Globe race. So then the Mini Globe race starts in Antigua towards the end of February.
Turk is the only Canadian and one of 2 North Americans accepted for the inaugural 28,000-mile Mini Globe race, which is expected to take over a year to complete. He plans to race with his 5.8-meter hand-built sailboat Little B, noting he learned a lot from his last voyage.
Knowing the boat a little bit better was, in terms of my physical space, knowing what things I wanted to do and change and modify and becoming more organized was probably the biggest thing. My meal preparation was pretty good, so I think I might just modify a few things, bring some more fresh fruit with me.
Turk will be able to stay in touch with his family and race manager through multiple satellite devices on Little B. He says he'll also be taking exceptional care to reduce the risk of misadventure while preparing as best he can for worst-case scenarios, adding that one of his constant priorities will be keeping an eye out for changes in weather conditions.
I don't really want to have to go through a storm in a boat like this. But the problem is that because it's such a small boat, it doesn't go very fast. And I can't avoid anything big that I don't know about early enough. So if there is something like that, I have to deploy my storm tactics and ride it out, close the hatches, and hang on.
Turk starts the qualifier race this Saturday, December 28th. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
The annual Toys for Tots campaign has wrapped up for another year.
Organizers with the Thunder Bay Professional Firefighters were at Intercity Shopping Center today to announce another record-breaking year for the fundraiser. Emma Chilton reports.
Toys for Tots 2024 was a huge success with more than $180,000 donated in time for Christmas. The campaign is a volunteer-led local fundraiser that has been operating in Thunder Bay for over 70 years. This year, 175 off-duty firefighters volunteered for the campaign at the mini fire station at Intercity Shopping Center. Firefighter and campaign co-chair Rob Wilson says they managed to raise $4,000 more than they did in 2023.
It's unfortunate there's so many people needing this service, but you know what? The people of the community stepped up. Even with the cost of living being the way it is, everybody still showed up and gave us large donations. It was very good. Very happy with what we've done this year.
Launched at the end of November, community partners stepped up in a big way for the campaign, hosting individual donation drives. Kicking off the campaign, Tim Hortons donated over $48,000. Boston Pizza's annual Firefighter Serving Day garnered an incredible $9,283. And the grade 12 drama students at St. Patrick's High School donated ticket sales from their production of Rudolph with a total of $7,500. All of that funding will provide toys for over 4,000 children in need. Christmas Cheer Fund Chair Jill Thompson says their partnership with Toys for Tots continues to help the cities less fortunate at Christmas time.
The community of Thunder Bay, not only the small businesses, but every individual, whether it's $2 or $2,000, the community continues to show up for those who need in Thunder Bay, and it's incredible to watch. It's incredible to be a part of.
The money raised from the Toys for Tots campaign will now be used to purchase children's toys for the next year's Christmas cheer hampers. Emma Chilton, TBT News.
More than half of Thunder Bay's outdoor boarded rinks are now open for the season, just in time for students' Christmas holidays.
Last year, during the unseasonably warm winter, the rinks didn't open until January. But this time around, skaters are able to take advantage of the good ice conditions much earlier. Jonathan Wilson has more.
Thunder Bay's outdoor boarded rink started opening up on Friday afternoon, and by this weekend, local skaters and shinny hockey players were starting to flock to places like West Thunder Community Centre, which has 2 boarded ice surfaces. City Parks and Open Spaces manager Corey Halverson says the cold weather throughout December really helped their staff get many of the rinks flooded and meet their usual target dates this winter.
It's excellent to see. This is an above average year for opening based on the number of sites that we were able to open. As of Friday, we had 16 of our 31 sites open, and we'll be updating that through the weekend and into early next week.
I guess the goal is always to try to get them open just as the kids start their Christmas holidays.
Exactly, that is our goal. We want to have as many sites open for the holiday break.
How happy are you to have the rinks open?
Pretty happy. Like when I don't have a practice or a game, I like to go play hockey. So it's pretty nice to have the rink open. You can do whatever you want. Like you don't have to really listen to your coaches. So you could just like fool around and play. You don't have to like do drills or whatever.
Well, it's awesome having these out here in the winter. When you don't have practice on one day, you just come out here and keep playing.
It's a huge change from last winter when Thunder Bay saw above zero temperatures throughout most of December, leaving city employees unable to open the rinks until the kids went back to school in January. Then in mid-February, the rinks that did open were closed again due to a heat wave. In total, the rinks were open for just 8 weeks or less last winter, compared to the normal 11 to 12 weeks. Do you remember last year when there was hardly any outdoor rinks open?
I don't think I went once last year. It was just too hot.
Yeah, last year was not a good year for outdoor rinks. The temperatures were just too warm. I don't believe we opened any sites until January 5th, and that was a handful of the supervised sites. So that was the first, I believe, and that we just had nothing open over the holiday break. So yeah, it's very nice to see a more typical start to the season where we can offer this service through the holidays.
The city operates 31 outdoor skating areas around the city, including Prince Arthur's Landing and the skating trail at Vickers Park. More information about which rinks are open, which ones have heated change rooms, and hours of operation can be found on the Outdoor Rinks map on the city's website. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
A new study shows that activities like ice fishing and other lake ice recreational activities will continue to grow less and less safe in the coming years. Josh Culpepper, a postdoctoral researcher at York University, says as the winters continue to warm, the ice cover is becoming more dangerous.
So what this means practically is that the period when there is ice cover, but the ice is insufficiently thick to support weight, will increase. And this effectively decreases the overall time when people can be out on the ice and using the ice.
Thunder Bay's ice racing season had to be canceled last winter because the ice never got thick enough for the races to go ahead safely. The study mainly focused on human weight on the ice, but other winter activities could see even shorter safe periods. Culpepper's team compared warmer climate scenarios to the historical condition of the ice quality of the Great Lakes. The study found that in warmer years, there tends to be more white ice, which is typically weaker than blue ice, especially when temperatures are near the freezing mark. That can be unsafe for people and vehicles.
If you were going to use a snowmobile or a vehicle, something like that, you would need much, much thicker ice cover. So we didn't calculate those thicknesses. We're just looking at periods when people can safely use the ice. And in a 4-degree warmer world, that could be upwards of a month less time.
Lake ice users are advised to always check the quality of the ice before going on it.
Thunder Bay's Coleman has released his first holiday song called Grandma's House.
He hopes those who hear it are reminded of the importance of family, especially at this time of year. Justin Hardy has the story.
You know it's Christmas Day over at Grandma's house.
Coleman says his manager had always wanted him to do a Christmas song, but he only wanted to write one if it came naturally. The song is centered around Hal's childhood in Thunder Bay and the holiday traditions he grew up with. He adds that the song is about the enduring importance of family.
We used to gather at both of my grandma's house every year at Christmas, and then sort of in their passing, we lost that glue or that place where we would come together, and it kind of got a bit more spread out. But I think the memory of them and how important it was to them kind of is what remains and keeps everyone coming together.
You got to gather around like you're at Grandma's house.
Before Hal's music career blew up with Two Heads and Fireproof, he moved to Toronto to initially pursue rap, but he says that Thunder Bay has been a huge part of his career.
My first song I ever sang was called Glow, and Thunder Bay really kind of lifted that up. And I think, and even now really, I always find so much support. I always feel so welcomed when I come back. And it's still really a part of who I am, all my formative years were spent there. So I know cities change and evolve over time, but there's like this version of Thunder Bay that lives inside of me that is kind of a big part of the artist that I have become.
Grandma's House can be streamed on most music platforms.
So tell your daddy and your mama, gather round. Tell your sister and your brother.
Justin Hardy, TBT News.